Have you ever woken up feeling like Earth's gravity was 10 times stronger, pulling your body back into the sheets as if the world outside were impossible to face? This overwhelming feeling of wanting to remain still, protected by the silence of your room, is often judged by productive society as laziness or a lack of will to live. However, from the perspective of depth psychology, this desire for retreat is not a character flaw, but a wise defense mechanism of your wounded psyche. Carl Jung teaches us that the soul has its own cycles, and after a long period of emotional exhaustion, it demands a return to the womb, to darkness, and to absolute rest. Your body is not just tired of physical tasks, it is drained from sustaining an unsustainable reality while living with the pattern of control. During the toxic experience, your nervous system operated in a constant state of alert, vigilant against criticism, manipulation, and the mood swings of others. This hypervigilance consumes an immense amount of vital energy, keeping you in a survival mode that ignores your basic needs for rest and emotional nourishment. Now that the cycle has ended, or you are seeking detachment, your body has finally realized that it is safe to switch off the emergency engines. The collapse you feel is actually the system shutting down to perform deep repairs that have been postponed for months or even years of accumulated tension. Wanting to stay in bed all day is a sign that your feminine energy, the yin principle that governs receptivity, being and nurturing, is taking over to heal the wounds caused by excessive defensive action. In our culture, we value constant doing, but real healing happens in not doing, in the empty space where cellular and psychic regeneration can occur without external interruptions. Imagine you are a battery that has been used to the last drop of charge. There's no point in trying to turn the device on before it's fully recharged. Your room, your bed, become the sanctuary where this sacred recharging takes place, far from judgmental eyes. It is crucial that you begin to reframe how you view this period of apparent inertia, replacing guilt with compassion and understanding that an invisible and magnificent work is being done. While you rest, your subconscious mind is processing memories, untying emotional knots, and clearing away the toxic residue left by constant manipulation. This is not wasted time. It is time invested in recovering your integrity and rebuilding your fragmented identity. Your soul is asking for a break from the outside world so that it can finally listen to itself and heal the parts that have been silenced. Accepting this state of rest is the first act of rebellion against the narcissist's programming, which has always demanded performance, perfection, and constant usefulness from you to be validated. By allowing yourself to do nothing, you are declaring that your intrinsic value exists simply because you are, and not because of what you produce or offer to others. This is the beginning of your turning point. The moment you stop serving the ego of others and begin to serve your own biological and spiritual restoration. To understand why you can't get out of bed, we need to look at the energy dynamics that operated during the draining, tumultuous relationship. You spent a lot of time accessing your distorted masculine energy, the one focused on action, defense, crisis resolution, and trying to fix the uncontrollable. This constant state of war forced you to live off-center, always projected onto the other person, always ready to parry the next blow or resolve the next drama. When the danger subsides, what we might call an adrenaline hangover occurs, where stress hormones plummet and real exhaustion surfaces. If you are seeking a deep understanding of these processes and want to rebuild your life with wisdom, I invite you to subscribe to the channel right now. By joining this community, you will gain access to knowledge that validates your experience and offers practical tools for your journey of healing and rebirth. Your registration is an important step in ensuring that you do not walk alone and that you receive the support you need to transform pain into power. Your animus, the masculine aspect within the female psyche, according to Jung, was overloaded, acting like a soldier in a trench who never sleeps and never lowers his guard. Now that the battle is over or paused, this soldier has collapsed, unable to take another step, requiring feminine energy to step in to care for the wounded. Extreme exhaustion is physical proof that you fought bravely to maintain your sanity and your essence. But now the time for weapons is over. It's time to allow gentleness and rest to take over, dissolving the muscular and mental rigidity that has settled in like armor. Many women fear this fatigue, interpreting it as permanent depression or as a sign that it won and completely destroyed them. However, it's necessary to see it as a necessary decompression, similar to what happens with divers who need to ascend slowly to the surface to avoid injury. You have been under immense emotional atmospheric pressure, and your body needs time to readjust to normality, safety, and peace. The desire to stay in bed is your body telling you that the external environment still seems too dangerous or stimulating for your current state. Honoring this exhaustion means ceasing the fight against yourself, ending the internal civil war where one part of you wants to rest and the other criticizes itself for it. The narcissist conditioned you to believe that your needs were irrelevant or a nuisance, and rest is the most primal need there is. By surrendering to this rest, you are breaking the conditioning, telling your nervous system that it is allowed to turn off the red alert. It is a biological regulatory process that precedes any attempt to return to social or productive life. Carl Jung used alchemy as a metaphor for psychological development, and the first phase of this process is called nigredo, or the phase of darkening and decay. This stage is characterized by a feeling of heaviness, melancholy, withdrawal from the world, and immersion in one's own shadow and unprocessed pains. The desire to stay in the darkness of one's room, lying down, is a literal manifestation of this alchemical phase where the old self is dissolving to give way to the new. It is not a tragic end, but the fertile and dark ground where the seeds of one's new life are being gestated in silence and secrecy. During Nigredo, everything seems confusing, slow, and meaningless, which can be terrifying for someone accustomed to the frenetic chaos and intensity of the abuse cycle. However, it is precisely in this uncomfortable stillness that the psyche separates what is yours from what was projected onto you by the manipulator. It is in the silence of your room that you begin to distinguish your own voice from his critical voice, which still echoes in your mind. Lying down is, in fact, an act of incubation, protecting the internal transformation that is too delicate to be exposed to the harsh light of day or the opinions of others. Modern society, focused on glamour and extroversion, has no patience for Nigredo, quickly labeling it as pathology or functional failure. But Jung reminds us that without this descent into the depths, without this contact with the dark matter of the soul, there is no true ascension or psychological gold. You are cooking over a low flame, allowing traumatic experiences to be digested and integrated, ceasing to be open wounds and becoming scars of wisdom. This process cannot be rushed by the will of the ego. It has its own time, the time of the soul. Imagine you are a caterpillar that has entered a cocoon. Inside, the caterpillar's body completely disintegrates before reorganizing itself into the form of a butterfly. If someone were to open the cocoon now, they would see only a biological soup, something that appears immobile and shapeless, but which contains the potential for flight. Your room is your cocoon, and your inertia is the necessary protection for this radical metamorphosis to happen safely. Resisting this process only causes more pain and prolongs the time needed for complete healing. Therefore, when you feel guilty for not doing anything, remember that you are doing the hardest work of all, transmuting pain into awareness. You are facing your inner dragons in the dark, rescuing fragments of your soul and weaving a new inner reality. Nigredo is temporary but essential. It is the dark night that inevitably precedes the rising of a brighter and truer sun. The nervous system has automatic responses to trauma, fight, flight, coping, and, the most misunderstood of all, freezing. When fighting is futile and flight seems impossible, the body shuts down to conserve energy and minimize the pain of continuous emotional impact. The desire to stay in bed all day is often a manifestation of this state of functional freezing, where the body decides that immobility is the safest strategy at the moment. It's an ancestral wisdom ingrained in our DNA. to remain still so as not to attract predators and to allow internal regeneration. During the toxic relationship, you were subjected to constant aversive stimuli, which left your nervous system dysregulated and in a state of shock. Now that you are away from the source of danger, your body enters a state of safe collapse, allowing all the accumulated tension to begin to dissipate slowly. It's not that you don't want to live, it's that your biological system is saying, "Stop, don't take another step," until it's safe to feel again. It's a necessary hibernation so that you don't completely break down under the pressure of continuing to pretend everything is normal. This freezing also serves as a barrier against new invasions, creating an impenetrable physical and energetic space around you. By refusing to get out of bed, you are unconsciously establishing a rigid physical boundary against the world that has hurt you. It's as if your unconscious is saying, "In here, under these blankets, I am sovereign and no one can hurt me or demand anything from me." It's a primitive but effective way of regaining a sense of autonomy over your own space and body. It's common to feel ashamed of this state, especially when we compare our current productivity to that of others or to our previous selves. But this comparison is unfair, as it ignores the severity of the emotional injury you suffered and the complexity of recovery. No one would demand that someone with a broken leg run a marathon. Similarly, you shouldn't demand that your fractured soul function at full speed. The freeze will melt naturally as the feeling of inner security is restored, drop by drop, day after day. Embrace this state as a temporary guardian, a shield that allows you to breathe without having to perform for anyone. The warmth of the bed, the silence, the dim light, all of this helps regulate the parasympathetic nervous system, responsible for relaxation and the processing of emotions. You are literally thawing at your own pace, and each day of rest is another degree of warmth that you return to your heart. Feminine energy, in its essence, is not about weak passivity, but about a powerful and magnetic receptivity that attracts and nurtures. Narcissistic abuse directly attacks this essence, forcing the woman to always be in a state of excessive giving, emptying her cup to the last drop. Lying down, allowing yourself to be supported by the bed, is a profound exercise in reconnecting with the feminine pole of receiving and being. You are learning to stop giving energy outwards and beginning to direct all that flow of love and care inwards. In this state of rest, you become the sacred chalice that is finally being filled again, not by external validation, but by your own presence and silence. Feminine energy heals through connection with feeling, intuition, and the body's natural rhythms, which have been neglected. It is a time to nourish the roots of your tree, which have become dry, before expecting it to bear fruit or flowers again. Not doing becomes a spiritual practice of fulfillment, where you allow life to touch you without you needing to control or manipulate it. I'd like to know how you feel about this not doing. Do you feel guilty when you rest, as if you were making a mistake, or are you now able to see rest as a necessary remedy? Leave your answer in the comments, as sharing this experience helps break the stigma of laziness and unites us in understanding that rest is a right, not a privilege. Your insight is valuable for us to understand together how guilt was instilled and how we can remove it. By embracing this healing inertia, you are rebalancing the polarities within yourself, healing the wounded masculine that felt it needed to fight to deserve love. You discover that you are worthy of rest simply by existing, and this is one of the greatest cures for the wound of devaluation left by the narcissist. Feminine energy knows that creativity, intuition, and clarity are born from emptiness and silence, not from noise and constant busyness. You are gestating your new version in the warm womb of your radical self-care. Allow yourself to be cared for by the universe, by the sheets, by the pillow, by the sun streaming through the window, without feeling the need to reciprocate immediately. This exercise in receptivity will strengthen your ability to set boundaries in the future, because you will know what it feels like to be full of yourself. When you get up, it won't be out of obligation, but because your cup has overflowed with renewed vital energy. Living under constant tension creates a chemical dependency in the brain, addicted to the adrenaline and cortisol spikes and the crumbs of dopamine that the relationship offered. The cycle of abuse, with its phases of idealization and devaluation, functions like a chemical roller coaster that leaves the brain constantly seeking intense stimuli. When all this ends and silence sets in, the body goes into withdrawal from these substances, resulting in a feeling of deep apathy and lack of pleasure. Staying in bed is, physiologically, a period of detoxification, where your brain is trying to recalibrate its receptors to normality. Boredom and a lack of desire to do things that previously brought pleasure are classic symptoms of this neurochemical regulation, and not necessarily of permanent clinical depression. Your system is learning to function without the toxic fuel of drama and chaos, and this takes time and patience. The bed offers a low-stimulus environment, essential for the brain to reset and rediscover pleasure in the simple and calm things in life. It's like a necessary fast after years of ingesting emotional and chemical poison. During this period, it's common to feel that life has lost its color, but in reality, you're just cleaning the lenses that were clouded by the artificial intensity of trauma. Real peace can seem boring to a nervous system addicted to war, and rest can feel like stagnation. However, it is in this healing boredom that your neurobiology heals itself, reducing inflammation caused by chronic stress and restoring hormonal balance. You are literally washing your body from the inside out, removing the residue of fear. Understanding this removes the moral weight from your inactivity. You are not lazy. You are in rehabilitation from a chemical addiction induced by others. Just as someone recovering from a substance needs rest and isolation, you need this time for your body to return to producing happiness in a natural and sustainable way. The desire for isolation is your body asking not to be stimulated while it performs this delicate cleansing operation. Over time, the chemical fog dissipates, and you begin to feel flashes of genuine and serene joy, unlike the anxious euphoria of the past. Your body thanks you for this pause, rewarding you with an emotional stability you haven't felt in a long time. Detox is difficult, but the result is the freedom to feel life as it truly is, clean and vibrant. In the deafening noise of manipulation, criticism, and mind games, your inner voice, the voice of your intuition and yourself, was muffled and almost silenced. The period of retreat in bed creates the necessary vacuum for that timid voice to begin whispering again, bringing forth truths that have been ignored. Jung believed that the unconscious speaks to us when we silence our waking consciousness, and it is in this state of semi-wakefulness and rest that the deepest insights emerge. You begin to remember who you were before everything happened and to glimpse who you want to become. Far from the opinions and distortions of the narcissist, you can finally process the reality of the facts, connecting the dots that previously seemed unconnected. It is in the silence of the room that the pieces fall into place, that the confusion dissipates, and that the truth about what you have experienced settles in your heart. This cognitive and emotional process demands immense energy, which is why the body asks for physical stillness. All the energy is being used for mental and spiritual processing. You are having sacred conversations with yourself, rekindling the friendship with your own soul. And speaking of listening to yourself, I ask you, in the silence of your room, have you been able to hear any truth about yourself that was previously muffled by the noise of the relationship? Share in the comments if you feel like it. Sometimes writing is the best way to give shape to that voice that's returning. Validating your own perception is a crucial step in never again allowing anyone to make you doubt your sanity. The inner witch or wise woman communicates through feelings, images, and bodily sensations that are only perceptible in stillness. By allowing yourself to lie down, staring at the ceiling or dozing off, you are opening space to receive downloads of wisdom from your subconscious. Many women report having vivid dreams or sudden ideas during this phase, which serve as guides for the next steps in reconstruction. Silence ceases to be empty and becomes filled with your own presence. Recovering your inner voice guarantees that you will no longer be guided by the broken compasses of others. You are tuning your instrument, ensuring that it plays the music of your truth and not the dissonance of someone else's control. The room thus becomes an audience chamber where the only authority that matters is your own. It's common that when allowing yourself to rest, an inner critical voice arises, often internalized by the abuser, saying that you are wasting your life or being useless. This guilt is a remnant of the conditioning that linked your worth to your usefulness and personal sacrifice. Reframing this moment requires you to confront this critical voice with the truth of your new awareness. Rest is productive, healing is work, and you owe nothing to anyone. You survived a psychological war, and war veterans deserve care, not judgment. Transforming guilt into reward is a daily exercise in affirming to yourself that tending to your inner garden is more important than maintaining your outward appearance. You realize that the rush to get better is just another form of self-inflicted violence, an attempt to skip steps to please a society that doesn't understand the depth of your pain. By staying in bed, you are telling your inner critic that it no longer rules your house and that the rules have changed. Reinterpretation involves understanding that life is not a performance race, but a journey of the soul, and that the valleys are as important as the peaks. This lost time is, in fact, time gained in longevity, mental health, and future wisdom. You are building solid foundations so that your next construction will not crumble at the first sign of trouble. Guilt diminishes as you see the small internal progress that no one else sees, but that you feel. You learn to be your own gentle mother, the one who tucks you in with a blanket, brings you tea and says, "It's okay to rest, you've done so much." This self-compassion is the antidote to the cruelty you've experienced, filling the gaps in love with your own affection. Guilt dissolves in the warmth of self-compassion, and rest ceases to be a sin and becomes a sacrament. You are rewriting the contract with your own life, where the main clause is respect for your limits and needs. No guilt can withstand the light of the truth that you are human and need time to heal. There will come a subtle, unassuming day when the desire to get up will be greater than the desire to stay in bed. This won't happen through forced willpower, but because vital energy, now cleansed and renewed, will begin to overflow naturally from your chalice. You will feel a genuine urge to open the window, to see the sun, to walk, or to create something new, signaling that the Nigredo phase is coming to an end. This awakening is organic and respects nature's timing, just as the butterfly knows exactly when to break free from its cocoon. The energy that returns is different from what you had before. It's calmer, more focused, and less reactive to external stimuli. You won't get out of bed to save the world or to prove something to someone, but to enjoy your own life and its pleasures. The boundaries you established in the silence of your room will now be taken into the outside world, protecting your new, sensitive, and precious skin. The return to active life is done with caution and wisdom, carefully choosing where and with whom you will spend this newly acquired energy. If you want to know how to protect this new energy and build a life shielded against toxicity, subscribe to the channel now. Our mission is to walk alongside you, not only through pain, but also in rebuilding your joy and strength. Your registration ensures that you continue to receive valuable guidance for this new phase of expansion and freedom that is approaching. You will notice that your interests have changed, that certain things that once seemed important are now irrelevant, and that you value peace above all else. This new woman who emerges from bed is not the same one who lay down months ago. She has been forged in the fire of transformation and now knows the value of her rest. The cocoon has served its purpose, and the wings, though still damp, are ready to dry in the sun and carry you to heights that once seemed impossible. The awakening of the chrysalis is a moment of gratitude for the time of darkness, recognizing that it was this darkness that allowed the formation of its colors and its strength. You leave the chamber not to return to what you were, but to inaugurate a new era in your personal history. The final stage of this process, according to Jung, is individuation, becoming an indivisible, unique, and whole individual, separate from the masses and the projections of others. The time you spent doing nothing was the time you became everything you needed to be for yourself. You integrated the shadow, embraced the pain, rested the warrior, and awakened the sage, creating a rich and multifaceted personality. Narcissistic abuse, despite being terrible, served as the unintentional catalyst for you to find your true essence. You now walk through the world with a different gravity, anchored in your own truth and your own body. The need to please has disappeared, replaced by the need to be authentic and true to your soul. You know that your feminine energy is a source of power, capable of creating, destroying what is useless, and nurturing what is vital. The whole woman does not fear solitude, nor silence, nor the opinions of others, for she has herself. Individuation is an ongoing process, but you have reached an important milestone: spiritual and emotional autonomy. You are no longer defined by what happened to you, but by what you chose to do with what happened. The bed, the room, and the pause were the sacred tools that allowed this alchemy. You are living proof that life always wins and renews itself. Looking back, you see that it wasn't laziness, it was survival, it was healing, it was self-love in its purest and most radical form. You gave yourself what no one else could give you, time and space to be. Now whole and remade, you are ready to live life on your own terms, with the dignity of a queen who has reclaimed her kingdom. Individuation is your trophy, and your peace is your crown. Rise when you are ready, and walk with the certainty that you are your own master.